everyone. Welcome back to this week's Cedarville Stories podcast. I'm Mark Weinstein. Last week, I talked with Mark Scharnberg about his family business and how his relationship with his dad influenced him in many ways. Today, I'm going to continue my conversation with Mark about Iowa United, a ministry in Des Moines he's using to build relationships with young athletes through the game of basketball. It's time for you to lace up your sneakers and run to the gym for the spirited conversation with Mark Scharnberg on this week's Cedarville Stories podcast. Let's pivot. I use that word intentionally because I want to talk about basketball now. And one thing you said, about how money is a great thing, but it can be a bad thing, right? What went through my mind is the current NIL process in college athletics, but we won't go there. But let's go basketball.
We may go there because that's part of the reason why I started Iowa United. So we might go there.
Let's do that then. So you started Iowa United. Tell us, what is Iowa United?
So Iowa United, I liken Iowa United to more of a European academy. It is a prep school, a basketball prep school. It's for 24 athletes. We have two teams, Team Black, Team Orange. Team Orange is our young guys, our freshmen and sophomores. Our Team Black is our juniors and seniors. We're on EYBL Scholastic. That's the best league in the world. And so we're playing the top teams in the country. So this last year, I think out of the top 25, we probably played 17 or 18 of the top 25 schools. And so what we strive to do is put a professional high school basketball program together, because the amount of money now that it's at the college level, and kids are making $1 million, $2 million, up to $4 or $5 million a year. And so it's gone professional.
It has.
So what is that going to do to the elite basketball in the U.S. in high school? And I feel like this is where it's heading, the type of program that we're putting together. And so we wanted to be first. We want to be the best. And at the same time, though, again, we can do missions. So it's a Christian school. We have Bible classes. I got Bible verses. Our program's passage is Philippians 2, 1 through 4. In every apartment that is spelled out. And so at the same time, we can strive to be the best. We can also strive to have it be a mission. And it's kind of our way of giving back. What really drove me to get into it was there was a time where I wasn't sure if my kids wanted to come back and work at the family business.
Okay. And
if you study family businesses, I put a lot of thought into this, and it's like by the third or fourth generation, it starts to fall apart, and so I was coming up with business ideas for my three kids that they could potentially do, and trying to tell them, when you own a family business, you can make money in two ways. You can work there and make a salary, or you can make money as an owner. And so you don't necessarily have to come back to the family business and work because you're an owner, and, trying to get those concepts across. And so, I had these ideas, and I had one for each of my kids. And I was going over with them, with my wife and my children, to see if that would be of interest. I didn't know. Or maybe they wanted to come back to the family business. And for my middle son, Jameson, who will be a senior this next fall.
Okay.
He loved basketball. And so I had a vision of doing a basketball program. Nothing like what I created now. There's been a little scope creep, but so I had this idea for a basketball program that after he graduated, he can come back and work at and do, because that's kind of where I saw his passion, was basketball. And well, the basketball program he was in basically imploded. And so my wife looked at me one day and just said, if you're going to do that idea, let's do it now so that he could benefit from it as a player. And then he could come back at it and work at it. And so that's what really started it, was trying to come up with ideas that would tempt my kids away from coming back to the family business, because unless you're really passionate about manufacturing and operations, and like I was, then I really want them to do something else, you know? And that's kind of what got it started. We started as an AAU program that morphed into a school in an AAU program. And we're going to be entering into our year 3. And in year 3, it's going to be just a prep school. And, but we provide, it's really a professional development program.
Okay.
And so we not only have the school, but we have a strength, we have a staff of about 15. We have a 73,000 square foot facility. We're investing about $150,000 per athlete per year.
Wow.
And we provide strength training. We provide injury prevention. We have a licensed chiropractor, sports medicine doctor on staff. We have a full recovery center with hyperbaric chambers and red light therapy and hot and cold plunges. And we just hired a couple months ago, our head coach is Keith Smart. So Keith Smart played at Indiana under Bobby Knight, hit the game winner in '87.
Made a big shot,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah, and he coached professionally under Don Nelson and at Arkansas under Musselman. And he coached DeBonza last year, and he brought in his top assistant, George Wright-Easy. I've got another coach that's going to be starting who came from Indiana, from Fishers High School, Garrett Winigar. All these guys are strong Christian men, which is great. I just hired a math teacher, so we're going to be teaching math full-time. We do some online live teaching, but math we're going to be doing in person. And so, yeah, we're all in on this. You know, the nutrition, how much sleep, just the healthy habits, the recovery, and so, yeah, it's a lot put together. And we, in this facility, we got 6 4-bedroom apartments. So we live in the building that we practice. The classrooms, the strength area, the recovery center is all under one roof.
Okay.
And so these kids can walk between the areas. If you Google or you go to YouTube, I think there's an influencer that did a tour of our facility, so you can kind of see the front half. The back half just opened up. So the back 36,000 square feet just opened up. So that's not online yet, but it's coming, so people can see it. So it's been a very fun project, very, very hard, I would say, project. But at the end of the day, here's another thing I wanted to say. You know, when you have means, you know, you tend to get into a lifestyle where a lot of people serve you, right? You get people mowing your lawn. You got somebody cleaning your house. You got, so you have the means to do those things. And so this was a way that my wife and I were able to set it up to where we're serving others. You know, we're living in the facility. My wife and I moved in. I did laundry this morning. I did the towels. I do towels every day. And so we're serving these athletes that are in our program to try to help them reach their full potential, and become college players, potential pro players.
Sure.
In our second year, we had a McDonald's All-American. We had the top center in the country. And so he's going to Houston this college season. So yeah.
How long, so this is your 3rd year of operation. How long?
This fall will be our 3rd year.
This year will be. So do they stay for 1 year or 2 years, or how long do these athletes stay?
So what we do is when we recruit, you know, we recruit at all different stages, right? We're recruiting some freshmen. We can actually have up to 8th graders in our program. So we had an 8th grader this last year.
Okay.
Our school is accredited from 8th grade to senior year.
Okay.
But you recruit, let's say you recruit a freshman, and the hope is that, yes, he'll stay in your program all 4 years.
Okay.
But in our program, you have to earn every year. And so the way I put it is in order to be great, it takes 3 things. And the first thing is talent. And that's what God's blessed you with, right? Some of these guys are tall, they're strong, they're very athletic, they're very coordinated. And so God's blessed these guys. These are some of the top athletes in the world. And the second thing is the opportunity. That's what we're providing. So if there's anything that will help them succeed, we're providing it. You know, from the food to how we travel, to the facilities, to the staff, you name it. If there's something out there that would help these athletes achieve success, we're going to provide it.
Yeah.
The last thing is just their drive, right? It's the hard work that they're willing to put in. And so it's hard to tell a freshman that you're guaranteed 4 years and then have them in their freshman year work really hard.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot easier to say, hey, you got to work really hard this year to earn next year. And so every year we reevaluate the athletes that are in our program, and they have to earn that next year.
Yeah.
The goal of Team Orange is to get them to be able to make Team Black.
Okay.
Okay. The goal of Team Black is to win a national title every year, the Chipotle National. And so not only do you have to be a high major athlete, there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to be on a championship team. You know, that's the goal of Team Black.
Correct.
And so what we have found that when we're recruiting for Team Orange, these younger guys, it's just really tough because a lot of U.S. families do not want to send their kids to a prep school yet. U.S. usually goes around their junior, senior year. So we have a lot of international. So we have a lot of Canadians. We have 3 or 4 different provinces in Canada. We have a kid from Serbia, Australia, France, and then we're setting up a whole operation in the Bahamas to route African talents. We were recruiting in about 9 different countries in Africa.
Okay.
And so we have a lot of international athletes that are younger. And so that's the hardest jump to make, is trying to jump from Team Orange to Team Black, because now they're competing against all the U.S. kids their junior year. And so the way we look at it is every year we give them, it's a blessing, even if they're not asked back. But the hope is that they continue to work really hard and that they buy in, and then they keep earning every year all the way through.
Okay.
That is the goal, but that's kind of how we structured our program.
So one thing, I have seen your facility online. My friend Clint Johnson from Indiana, who recommended you for the podcast, sent me the.
Okay.
So I've seen it. It's very impressive. You have a great facility there.
Thank you.
So do the students, or families, do they pay to come there? And
nope, it's totally free. So this whole program is entirely self-funded by Janet and myself.
Okay.
And so we haven't taken a dime from anybody. And the reason why we haven't taken a dime from anybody is because we wanted to set up the way we wanted to set it up.
You can control it.
And so we control it. And when I first got on the phone call with Nike, when they first got interested in us, the last thing they said is, what do you want from us? And I said, I don't want anything from you. I don't need your money. I don't need your games. But if I want to be the best, I need to partner with the best. And all I ask is that you watch and see that we don't do what we say we're going to do. And if you want to partner with us, then you want to partner with us. But I haven't taken a dime from anybody. Now in the future, yes, I'll look for ways to probably bring in some revenue. But again, I don't need to make money at this. That's what Cateco does for us. And so this is just a way that we give back, to be honest with you. It's kind of a passion project. It's a way that we serve together as a family. I envision my daughter, once she graduates, Sydney, once she graduates, she'll probably come back and work in the basketball program. I believe that Jameson and Lincoln will as well. And so my youngest son is a freshman, and he's kind of my entrepreneur. And so he started a lot of different businesses. He's done day trading, he's done auto detailing, but the thing he's doing right now is he's doing a lot of social media. He's just getting into that. So he's starting to film our games, put clips together. And, so he's serving in it as well. And so it's kind of fun to serve together as a family. And, my wife and I, we saw the empty nesters things coming up in a couple of years.
Sure.
We basically adopt these kids for a year. We parent these guys like we parent our own kids, And so my wife she's the general manager. Her background is exercise physiology. So
perfect fit.
Perfect fit. She's doing what she's passionate about, but she also has become the team mom, and these kids love her, and she loves these kids. And so one of the things I say is that it's the same philosophy that we set up at Cateco, from going from good to great. And to do that, it kind of goes back to what I said before, where it takes 2 things. It takes talent, but then it takes a culture of discipline, which is defined as following a set of rules. Well, when you're dealing with high schoolers and you're talking rules, rules without a relationship equals rebellion. And so the greater the relationship we can have with these guys, the more we can enforce these rules, like getting enough sleep and drinking enough water, eating the right food, and, having them buy into all this. These rules are designed to make them successful.
Yeah.
And so, but they don't necessarily always want to follow them.
Right.
But if you have a strong relationship with them, then it's a lot easier to enforce those rules and without the rebellion. And so that's really what we're trying to strive to do. And it's been fun, but the first 2 years have been really hard. It's getting easier, but it's
Well, I love the intersection of sport, basketball, with faith in Jesus. You're instilling biblical principles and thoughts to them. That's great. how do you go about scheduling games? How does that work? And then is Iowa United similar to like the IMG Academy?
Yep. So it is. And so to schedule games, so the young guys are in this last year, they were in a league, and I believe they're going to be in the same league this next year in the NSPA, which is a prep school league. And so my young guys, my eighth grader, my freshmen and sophomores played against other high school varsities. And so the schools may not have been as strong as what's in the EYBL Scholastic, but just the fact that they're playing juniors and seniors and some schools had post-grad players was a pretty big challenge, and they did really well, since they've been kind of outmatched physically. My older guys are in the EYBL Scholastic League, and so in that league, a lot of the schedule is put together for you. But then we supplement, that's about half our games. The other half is just in these independent events throughout the nation. And so for example, we go to the Border League and we go to the Tarkanian Classic, and there's some made hoop events that we attend. And so, so about half our games are scheduled through those events, and half of them are scheduled through Nike.
Okay.
With those that are in that league.
Yeah.
And, but yes, IMG's a good example. They're sponsored by Under Armour, so
Right.
they're more of an independent school with an independent schedule. And then, Sunrise, Link Academy, Bella Vista, you got AZ Compass, Mount Verde is a big name,
Yep.
where Cooper
Yep.
Flag went.
Yep.
You got Spire, you
Yep.
got all these big schools that are in the Nike EYBL Scholastic. Dynamic Prep in like Southeastern, they're not in it, but they're big prep schools. So, it's kind of fun. It's a high level basketball. I mean, these are grown men. It's basically college basketball in high school. I mean, these guys are really good, and it's a high level basketball.
Yeah, they're really good. So they're most likely going to go to the high level D1 programs, right?
Yes.
The ones that we see on TV, National Championship, Michigan, Villanova, UConn, etc. Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see Iowa United come to Dayton for the Flying to the Hoop competition or weekend. I mean, there's high level there as well. Any opportunity to funnel any of those athletes our way at Cedarville D2?
Yeah, I don't know. I know at one time my son was talking to the coaches at Cedarville, and so I don't know what will come out about that, and for him, I reclassed him, so this would have been his senior year.
Okay.
But then he redid his junior year. What's interesting about college basketball is that, with the transfer portal and NIL money, it's really driven the average age of the athlete up, right? Unless you're part of the 1% that could potentially go pro, because the NBA wants you as young as they can get you, right?
Right.
And so there's this push-pull going on between those two organizations. But for the most part, you want to try to max out the age. And so there's age requirements, and then there's also school requirements on reclassing, but you want to be as old as you possibly can. So he's getting an extra year of development before he decides where he's going to go to college. But as far as that goes, I'm not sure if we'll be able to funnel. Here's what's also unique with these high-end athletes. They typically have agents already, handlers. They've got a community around them. So we help facilitate the recruiting process if we're asked to. Sometimes we are, sometimes we're not, and so we don't really have a lot to say. We don't have any athletes sign any kind of contracts. They can leave at any time. So that same pressure the athletes feel to try to earn the next year, I want the same pressure on myself to try to earn their trust to come back next year if we want them, right?
Right.
And so I don't want people there because of a contract. I only want, when you give, that's probably been one of the hardest things, early on was, giving as much as we are giving to these athletes. And some of these athletes didn't want to be there, right? Or they were not grateful. Sure. And we've run into some of that, and that's been really hard. So we really try to team up with those athletes that want to be there.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
And, we pour our not just our finances, but everything we have into it. We're living there. So it's just, we're all in on these guys, and we're just trying to help them get to the next level. And so yeah, that's, so we don't really have a lot of say where they go typically, but we do kind of help with the recruiting process. So it's neat having all these college coaches come through our facility, meeting John Calipari and others. And you see them on TV, and then all of a sudden they show up to your facility, and another thing is I was always kind of an Iowa Hawkeye fan growing up, but now you kind of have to be neutral. You got all these colleges coming in, and the product that this organization is producing are these basketball players.
Yeah.
And the college coach was the first audience I was trying to sell, because I wanted to sell the college coaches to trust, because with NIL, if you're a college coach and you're going to pay somebody $2 or $3 million, are you going to go to a high schooler that is really high risk? You don't know if they're going to get good grades. You don't know if they're going to handle the freedom of college and all this stuff, or are you going to go to the transfer portal where you've got a little bit of a more known entity, And so I wanted to show what we were attempting to do so that they had more trust in our program, that if you graduated from our program, you had a college schedule that you followed. You had a workload at the D1 level, and you knew how to recover and all these things, So also teaching character and how to play basketball the right way. And
do you feel like you've developed that trust with the major D1 coaches?
I think so. I think some, but again, here's the hard part, right? So when my wife said go, I put a whole AAU program together in a couple weeks. And then halfway through that AAU season, we're like, let's go year round. So in a couple months, I had to put a school together.
Wow.
And not to say I did it all by myself, but I had to hire people and I got help. But when you go that fast, you make mistakes along the way. So we've had a lot of turnover. There's a lot of people that we hired that it wasn't a good fit. That's probably the best way to say that. So we've made mistakes along the way. Yeah. We, some decisions were good, some weren't. I just keep going forward. I think no decision is the worst decision you can make. So I just keep plowing forward, right? And so the hard part is I think we've earned some trust, but there's also things where we're a new program and we stumbled, and I'm in a field that I have no idea. I've never been in this basketball field, and so I don't know who to trust and who not to trust. And I'm coming from the medical manufacturing world where you got OSHA and at the FDA, and you got all these agencies, and you got your customers. And if you don't do what you say you're going to do, you're not going to be in business.
No.
But if you do what you say you're going to do in this basketball world, you stand out.
You do.
And I didn't really realize that, know. And so, but again, I've made some mistakes along the way, and we just keep moving forward. So I think the trust will come. I kind of view year 3 as my coming out year.
Okay.
My facility's done. I've got my staff in place, and I kind of view this as now the grand opening. And this is where I start building trust going forward. Not to say we haven't done some at the early stages. We have, but we have also made some mistakes. We started as an AAU program, then we switched to a school, and now we're going, we're dropping the AAU program, and we're just kind of finding out who we are, as we go through this too, and so it's kind of nice. I'm looking forward to this fall where we can just come out and really, this is who we are. Here's our staff, here's our facilities, and I'm kind of excited about that. Yeah. So yeah,
it appears that your future is bright, and your energy level is off the charts, which is exciting to see and watch. So I appreciate that. I know you love, as you said earlier, you love manufacturing, but I think you really love what you're doing right now, right?
I do. And I love systems, right? And so a lot of the things I did at Cateco, I'm actually just moving over to the basketball facility. So I love systems. I love operations. I love management. I love basketball. And so it was kind of a nice marriage of the two. Yeah. And then, the parts that I don't know, I've hired out, and so I've hired really competent people that know what they're doing in all these fields. And, I've got a great head of school, Sarah, who is now taking the school and running with it. And I've got a great coaching staff who is now, I've just handed off all recruiting and basically everything to them, and they're running with it. And the same thing with the strength and injury prevention coach. And so it's kind of neat to see when you hire talent, and then you just watch them go, right? And I don't have the pressure of having to make money, right? And that's, I'm not usually a big proponent of entrepreneurship programs in college because a lot of times you put these small businesses together and nobody ever makes money, that you don't pay labor and all
Sure.
this. It's not real business, right?
Right.
Well, that's kind of what this is. It's not really a real business. You can't lose money every year and be a real business.
No.
And so it's a passion project. We don't have the pressure of having to try to make money. I think that's where a lot of programs go south, is that there's no money in it at the high school level. And so you get into it, you're passionate about it, and then you have to start cutting corners.
Yeah.
Because there's just no money. And
Yeah.
it's just not that you want to do that, but you have to do that, and
Yeah.
and then it's a rat race for the top talent. Everybody, just like in college, everybody's fighting for the top talent, and so with us, it's a little bit more relaxing because of the fact that we're self-funding this. We're not aiming to make money at this. We just want to give back and create something great that we can do with our kids, especially now or when they graduate, having them come back and work in this business together. So.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a one of a kind opportunity because it's family driven, it's faith driven, and if I could assess from our conversation, the real success is coming in your heart and mind when you see those athletes becoming the best they can be and the best person they can be, hopefully founded in a faith in Jesus.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that because, right when you were saying that, I thought of a couple examples where, there's this one athlete that we've had from the very beginning. He came in as a freshman. He came from Canada. He was one of the top hockey players in Canada. His brothers played professionally, and he only started really playing basketball for a couple of years. And he came in pretty raw, but he was very, very athletic. And he just keeps advancing to where I think he's going to be a very successful high major D1 player. But without a program like this and without the amount of development that he's received, I don't know if he would have ever made it that far.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of that, the other side of that is the character side. And then, my wife and I, we invite the athletes that want to go to church, so we take them to church. And we've had, as much as 9 guys, so we fill this row at church, the pews, and so we walk in and they're all wearing Iowa United gear, and these guys are like 7 foot or 6'10", 6'11", so we stand out.
You sure do.
And we fill up the whole row, and that's really neat to see. And then we've seen guys come in where it's a little bit like dealing with somebody that has trauma in their life. Some of these guys may not, I don't know the full stories, but, if they may have had divorces or hard family lives or,
Sure.
So you see things creep up, right, in the attitude. And we've seen guys, when you pour into them, they turn into different kids when you start loving them, and they build trust. And it's the same process that goes with there's an organization that deals with at-risk youth here in town, that we've partnered with. And they describe the same process. And I've seen, maybe not as to the degree they deal with, but I've seen elements of that even in our program. And so you start to see kids really change, and that's where it gets hard because then they leave.
Yeah.
They graduate, and then, it's kind of like your own child leaving.
Right.
And so normally families do that once, 2, 3 times. We're doing that 4 or 5 times, 6 times a year,
Right.
And so we hate to see them leave. But what's great about it is as they move on, we invite them back. They can come back during the summers, that kind of stuff. And so I think after a couple of years, we'll have such a base out there.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of them actually make it to the professional levels where they can come back and they can give back to these guys that are in this program.
Yeah.
Come do camps or talk to the guys and, that kind of stuff.
That's neat. Mark, our time is up. And so I'm going to sign off. But I really... I appreciate you sharing, your heart. From the very beginning, talking about Kateco to I could talk hoops a lot longer. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your heart, and I am thankful for the Scharnberg family for being so much invested in Cedarville University and what we're doing here. So thank you very much, and thanks for joining me this week on the podcast.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Cedarville Stories podcast, brought to you by Cedarville University. To learn more about Cedarville, visit our website at cedarville.edu or click on the link below in the show notes. Be sure to come back next week when we'll share another Cedarville story for God's glory.